Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our second podcast, Mental Health and Mental Wealth. Last episode, we focused on the importance of mental health awareness as well as the stigma involved. And this session, we decided to focus on the highly important topic of social interaction and how that plays out within mental health as well, and with special regards to friendship and how to make friends as well. So with all that in mind, I know last time we spoke about COVID a bit and how COVID has affected all of us. And I think one of the ways that has affected us the most is in social interaction. Obviously, because of quarantining. So I found an interesting fact, which was that Grover Sandeep and Associates of the Department of Psychiatry Postgraduate Institute of Medical Education and Research in India, 2020, stated that the term social distancing is actually a misnomer and should be understood as physical distancing without any emotional distancing. And I thought that was kind of interesting because, you know, I think a lot of people hearing about their experiences in quarantine and during the pandemic, a lot of people ended up emotionally distancing as well. So even though there were bounds on the physical distance, some people kind of isolated as well. And I know that I think Grace, I think that we had talked about that before, and there was a fact that you had about that too.
Yes. Well, because of COVID, a lot of things like negative things were able to come out because of COVID. And um in already existence, because there was a research study by Harvard Medical School that revealed 10 million Americans suffer from serious mental illness that some seek help for, some don't seek help for.
Mm-hmm.
And so when COVID hit, I'm sure that um, that 10 million people had such a negative impact on their mental health, because you come face to face with isolation and you lose a lot of that physical interaction that we as humans crave. And because of that, um, and because of that, um, I'm sorry, I'm just not sure how to share my story or if it's our right time now to share my story.
You're good,
But
Grace. It's always the right time. And
um
I should have said this earlier, but I mean, what better way to talk about social interaction and how to make friends than us making this podcast together? So
yeah,
please,
That's
Grace,
exactly.
true.
feel free.
That
Um
Feel
is true.
free.
We have to keep it, we're keeping
Yeah,
it raw today,
we
This
are.
is about our social interaction.
well,
Yeah.
well then I guess I'll share my story about COVID because I was before COVID, actually 6 months before COVID hit the United States, I was living overseas in Southeast Asia for 13 years. And I had just ended my previous career. And so I was looking forward to coming back and being able to start my new career path, which involved a new education and going to school and things like that. Unfortunately, the first semester that I was in school, it was January because I took winter courses. And I probably had about a month. Winter courses are like 4 or 6 weeks. And I probably had a month, about a month to meet new people. And I was excited because I was coming back. Basically, my friends were childhood friends, and we didn't keep in touch for the time that I was in a different country. So I was excited to get back into it, like meet new people, meet people that had the same interests as me. The first month of winter semester, it was kind of, I was thinking like, oh, this is a warm up. Let me ease into it because I haven't been to school for like 13 years. So it was new for me.
Yeah.
And and then And then COVID hit like spring semester, like I think it was like about the third week of spring semester. I'm not sure, but it was early on. And that really had an impact on me because um then at that time I didn't know that I was suffering from any mental illness. I knew I had a problem, but I didn't know what my problem was. Um and so the isolation and being like kind of how it was for COVID, you know, you were in your house, you were only with your family members. For that part of like outside interaction and friendships, it was cut off for me.
Mm.
And it was like a struggle to be able to just kind of jump in into like, you know, like I'm in my mid 30s and I'm jumping into like, hey, do you want to be my friend? Like it just doesn't seem practical to me.
Okay, can I just say I feel you. I totally feel you on that
Mhm.
front, and I want to hear the rest of your story, but I just want to say I empathize, and you're not alone.
Yeah, that's basically my story because COVID hit with my anxiety and the things that I suffer from.
Yeah.
It's difficult for me. Like I've enjoyed the online classes, so I've kind of
Mhm.
kept to online classes, and I was super excited when we had this group project and it was mentioned like I know it was your idea, Danielle, to like have like kind of a like a deliverable about how to make a friend. And I was like, and
Mhm.
I was talking to this with a classmate, and I was like, oh, I'm so super excited. We're gonna do this podcast,
Oh,
but I'm not gonna have anything to say about it, but I'll just learn from my
Oh.
classmates. Like, how do I make a friend? Like,
girl,
let me, I
you've
was
plenty to
like,
say about it.
yeah, I was like, let me just kind of just give my facts and then sit back and listen to what you all have to say about how to do that because I don't know I don't know if it's just me or anybody else, but I struggle with that being a little bit older in age and with anxiety issues. So it's like very difficult for me to just jump into like a friendship with anybody.
Mm.
Um
Mhm.
even when I heard we had to do group projects, I was like, oh my gosh, like can I drop class or not? Unfortunately, I couldn't, so I had to stick. So I'm interested to hear your stories and what do you all have to say about this? Um, I
Well,
know.
I mean, go ahead, go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
go ahead, Danielle. Sorry.
Oh my gosh, I did not mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
I just want to say, like, I know through all this research and the fact that we had to research this topic about how to make friends, I was able to realize since research was done in 2017 with Harry Rees from the University of Rochester and his associates, that fun is more fun when others are involved. So it's been scientifically proven that fun is more enjoyable when others are involved. That study revealed people describe their feelings while doing something fun as excited, happy, alert, interested, amused. They felt less lonely, less bored, and less sleepy or sad. But those positive feelings became higher when they experience something fun or a fun activity with something familiar, which is a friend or a family
Mm.
member, or something that, you know, someone who is close to us. Um, so with that being said, I was like, oh, no wonder why I don't have that much fun. Because
Oh.
I basically do everything alone, but
Mm.
I've been playing on video games lately. So I love playing Call of Duty, and I don't know if anybody else plays that.
Oh, I do.
Oh my gosh,
Oh,
like
you
when
guys do? Wow.
I
Sorry,
started
I'm
off,
like shook.
you
Sorry.
also play this? Do you also play?
Not Call of Duty. I play Apex.
Oh my, I
You guys
was
know
like
I'm
Okay.
in
getting
Apex,
into
but
that
yeah.
too.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I didn't know there were other gamers in here. Yeah. I feel you you on the Call of Duty though. I don't play so much now, but I used to play a lot, and I know I've told you about my kind of gaming addiction when I was younger. So okay, not the positive side of it, but it's so real though. Like you can create a lot of social interaction through those mediums for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I was like playing by myself with like no friends, and my brother would laugh at me because he would be like, dude, even Call of Duty says you don't have friends, because my friend was zero. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's so true. But I mean, the more I played, the more you gain. Like, I mean, these are people you have never seen, but like you have your little groups or your little
Mhm.
clan or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just has been so much more enjoyable with like, I mean, these are not people that I know, but at least they play their interest is the same as mine. And Call of Duty has been so much more fun now. Um,
Yeah.
enjoy playing it. So yeah, I was just sharing a little bit about myself. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced like the same thing I had. But that's where I'm at right now. And I was just like so excited to hear about this because I want to know, what do I need to improve? I think I have a more or less what I need to improve, but if you guys have any other advice for me or for anybody else that's listening to this about, can we how can you be a friend to others?
Yeah, I feel like okay,
Mhm.
so I just want to say a couple things. First of all, like the whole gaming thing and you feeling like you're having more fun. Well, multiplayer is where it's at because
Yeah.
that's what like a lot of people who are doing this on gaming are also people who are it's like common, like struggling to find friendships. And I mean, I even spoke to one of my good friends' younger daughter, and she's 11, and she was saying that she has sometimes she just feels like she has better friends um in like the online community than she does like in real life. They say in
Yeah.
Mhm.
IRL as they say, right?
Yeah.
But I mean technically those friends are in real life. And there
Yeah.
are a lot of dangers that are posed through online community as there are a lot of dangers posed in real life as well. And we all have to exercise that kind of caution and balance between being cautious and also being open. Um and Grace, I really relate to you when it comes to like your story about, going back to school and like being like, okay, I'm ready, I'm ready to make friends and being an older student, I understand that as well. Because I'm 30 and I just kept thinking when I was coming back to school, because it's been 8 years for me since I've been back to school, and I think, oh, like I'm not going to relate to anybody, right? I'm not going
Right.
to fit in. I don't belong. And you know, I think part of that is like it's that voice in your head, like sometimes saying it. And I actually I struggle with anxiety too, specifically like social anxiety. And sometimes you just want to put your headphones on and wear your mask and walk to your
Mhm.
class and not like
Yeah.
meet anyone's eye and not, like I don't know if you've ever had that feeling where and this is to either of you and to anyone out there, but like you're walking and you meet eyes with somebody and like you smile, and it's such a small thing, but I feel like it makes such a big difference, and it kind of starts
Mhm.
that motivation um because you feel good, you feel like there's a connection, and it's these connections that are so important because they affect how we're feeling, which then when we believe in ourselves and when we have that kind of uplifting moments, it leads to motivation and starts the cycle of us wanting to connect more and us being like, okay, maybe I can put myself out there more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I could relate to that too.
yeah, I just want to say, I think this project does prove, like, okay, so for instance, what you just said, Danielle, about how you're in, I believe you said you're in your 30s, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm 20, and I think it's crazy that I get along more with you guys, even though you're older compared to people on my age. So I think
Elizabeth, we
that,
love you. You're our tech
oh,
wizard.
thank you. Thank you. Oh, goodness, COVID raised me. What can I say? But I did kind of want to talk about how it doesn't really matter what age group you're in. A lot of people, especially in the older category, they fail to realize how important social support is. So, For instance, in a study done in 2021 about social support and depressive symptoms, the authors Cho and Bulger from the Texas Tech University and Case Western Reserve University, they argue that higher levels of social support are related to lower levels of depressive symptoms among older adults. And I think it is important to realize that it's not just like, oh, younger people need that social support from everyone around them. It's basically well, not basically, it is for every age group that needs it, you know? It is important for all age groups to feel that support.
Yeah, 100%. Like
Yeah.
it really is everyone. Like I don't think anyone is meant to be lonely, you know? And I think it can be
Mm-hmm.
difficult when you have bad experiences or things can happen. It makes it harder. And especially for older adults, I mean, just thinking about my grandma, who grandma, if you listen to this, shout out to you. You're awesome. Love you. But she's so cool. She's like just such a awesome individual, and she really tries to focus on like enlightenment and like research, and she like really like she meditates, and she's very like she values her mental health a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And even so, like, you know, she has moments where she's down, and as you get older it becomes more difficult. One, because like you're having aches and pains and health problems that you didn't have before. And you know, I mean, from there, I mean, it's sad, but like as you get older, you know, you lose friends and you don't feel like you can connect with as many people. Or even something like, you know, you're you know, you meet someone but they're older, and you know, they don't have transportation. There's so many more like limitations. And I think it's Elizabeth, when you told me about this like material you'd found in this research, I do think it's like extremely important and something that every age group can take into account, so that when we are thinking about our elders or about older individuals, having that understanding and um, making those conscious actions to have those connections.
Yeah, Danielle, I could like basically like no understand what you're saying. Um, Not that I done research about it, but I remember during COVID times, when we were in lockdown and listening to like the news and what they were reporting about the number of deaths and what was going on with COVID-19 at that time. And it was being reported like a lot of the people that were became victims of COVID-19 were the older generation. We're talking like the older, like the grandmas and the grandpas. They fell victim. Like a lot of them struggled, not because they got COVID, but the fact that many of them got COVID, but then they were put like in isolation, cut off from any um, physical interaction with their family members. And it's different. I'm pretty sure a lot of people can relate to this. I'm not saying everybody can, but I'm pretty sure a majority of us could relate to it. That number one, being any age, you don't want to be in a hospital. It's the loneliest place ever. Um, so it so if you can imagine a grandma or a grandpa in a hospital bed by themselves with no loved ones around them, it's the loneliest place. It's where depression can set in, which um mental, like, the title of our podcast is mental health, mental wealth. So I mean, if you're struggling mentally, it's only a matter of time that your physical body starts to feel that toll. And I could relate to this because that happened to my grandma. She if it was so difficult because we at that time I had COVID, my mom also had COVID, and it was actually my mom's mom who was in the hospital with COVID. So there was like no way we could even go to see her or be at the same place as she was. And I remember they were like taking her in, and we got pictures of her like in like being transported from the hospital to like the ICU unit. And like in my opinion, she looked good. Like I was like, hey, you know, she's probably sick. Like she looks good. She's gonna make it. And it was just like a 2 day difference. Um, and she like ended up like her physical health like declined in a matter of 48 hours. It was the most heartbreaking thing because you couldn't be there with her, and you knew like you basically knew that it was because she was alone and she was depressed, and that plays like a major role in like someone's will to live
Yeah.
or just to give up. And I remember like the nurses, like we were on the Zoom call, and it was like it's not the same. Being on Zoom is not the same as actually sitting down with someone and having a conversation, being able to touch their shoulder or give them a side hug or a kiss on the
Mm.
cheek. I mean, it's way completely different. And we were trying to encourage her, like, oh, like please get incubated. Please like fight, you know, and
Mm.
when you're alone, you lose that will. Like you just don't want to. And she was just tired. And there was no like during COVID times, we didn't know how long it was going to last, if it was going to be 2 more months or 2 more years or 5 more years. Like we couldn't see like there was no light at the end of the tunnel. And I think when you're older in age and um depression sets in, like you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And that's what happened to my grandma. So it's very important that now that COVID is over and we're able to get back to social interactions and we're able to actually be in person with somebody. And I think a lot of us got comfortable with like, you know, doing a lot of things online and Zoom calls, and technology is wonderful. But at the same time, we need to have a boundary. And if it's our family members, like try to, you know, make time to actually visit them in person.
Mm.
And um like I think this story helped me, like what I went through, that it shows that sometimes I don't want to think that social interaction is important. And I think like, oh, I'm fine just being in my room 24/7. Like it's good. Well, for me, it's good, but it's life is not just about us. And there's so many people around us. Like we have a ripple effect to other people. I mean,
Mm.
what I do affects somebody else and somebody else. So like I try to do my best to like make time for my brothers, and I mean, they want to go here and there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so lazy. But then I think about, hey, me going with them or spending time with them might help them mentally,
Yeah.
motivate them, um, help their emotions be better. So I find myself when I have enough energy to like share that energy with others. Um, I know, Elizabeth, you shared a story about how like you weren't even motivated to like have any social interaction or, you know,
Mm.
go out of your way to find friends, but somebody asked to be your friend. I know you mentioned something like that. And it made me think of a story too about how I didn't I you know, I just look for online classes. So it's just more comfortable with me since I do have anxiety. So it's comfortable for me. But I had one classmate just like literally like really be persistent to start a study group. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, do I have to go on campus? And I have to like, I actually have to like take a shower, and I'll actually have to change and put on clothes. I'll have to take off my pajamas and go meet them. And I was like, hey, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. And it has been the best decision I've made so far. And
Aw.
yeah, so I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for people who put themselves out there. I do like hear her stories of how she was isolated for a couple years and she just kind of got fed up with it. And it gives me hope that one day I'll reach that point. I'm not there yet, but one day I'll be able to do those kind of social interactions, and it gives me hope.
Mhm.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I love that, Grace. And first of all, like thank you for sharing your story, and especially about like your grandma. Like that's like heavy, but it's the kind those are the kinds of stories that like really make people feel and make
yeah,
people understand and relate. And also it's like it's the virtual version of social interaction, which is that it makes people not feel alone, because a lot of people may not have had the same situation, but all people know pain. And I think that like the pain and the healing that you're talking about um is really important. And so I really thank you for sharing that. And I'm really sorry that you went through that. And I like, and my heart goes out to you. Like that's really not everyone had the same experience from COVID, from the
yeah,
pandemic, but that's really tough. And I also agree with your outlook about how like the social interaction isn't just for us. It's for your loved one. It's for like fellow humanity. Like I think
yeah,
sometimes that might help us because I understand you like when it comes to the getting on your pajamas and getting dressed and going out there and putting yourself out there and like all that. I get it. And
yeah,
I guess sometimes it helps to really and the anxiety of it, like the
Mhm.
what if, the don't know, what will happen, all of that, the worrying. I think like being able to say like and I'm so sorry to hear the car alarms going off. I'm sitting on campus in my car. Here's a car alarm going off. But I think it really is just a matter of like it could help to be like, what, if not for me then for someone else. So
yeah.
so
Mhm.
thank you for sharing that. I love that. And I know, Elizabeth, you had something to share about that too.
Oh, okay, well, yeah, first of all, thank you both for getting, more personal about it. I really, I, I'm sorry, I'm so bad at giving like emotional like condolences, but um, I know that some of our audience is probably going to be able to relate to you guys and really appreciate hearing that. I'm sorry for lack of better words. They're going to appreciate, I guess,
No,
the rawness.
No, you're
don't
good,
be sorry.
Elizabeth.
you're
Yeah.
you're 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 what makes this group and this podcast too. Like, and you know what, people are going to relate to how you're feeling right now and they'll relate to you as well. So please share with us.
Yes, share with us your story.
Okay, well, kind of relating back to Grace's story, I know this was when in-person classes at Cal State Lee first started again after, COVID was really bad. So I think it was 2021, correct? 2021
Yeah, about 21,
spring
yeah.
semester. Yeah. I specifically remember I was in my psychology 2000 course. And okay, this class is at around 9:30 in the morning. So I'm not gonna lie, half the time I would be half asleep. And I wouldn't feel like, honestly, I'm very introverted, so I wouldn't feel like I miss interacting because I just struggle with that. But a few weeks into the semester, this girl just started sitting next to me, and she just started talking to me, and I didn't really think anything of it because, like, yeah, we had a little chat, we got along, but it usually doesn't go beyond that, especially because I'm not out here, I guess, pursuing potential friendships like that. But the day that I met her, right after class, she like immediately asked me to. She was like, "Oh, do you want to hang out?" And honestly, in my head, I was like, "Oh, I don't know," because I'm very introverted, and I'm kind of like, oh, you know what? I need like a heads up. Like I need to mentally prepare myself to even do like little interact like social interactions like that. I need to mentally prepare myself. But that day I was just kind of like, you know what? Sure, yeah, let's hang out. And we hung out. We exchanged our socials and stuff, and she actually became a pretty good friend. And we still talk. So you know what? Um, some advice, I guess, for our audience or literally anyone listening. Sometimes you might have to put yourself in uncomfortable situations, especially if you're living with anxiety. You know, it is hard to find like the motivation to do that, but even like small steps, you know, that still progress is progress. So yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah.
I
Yeah,
agree
thank
with
you
that. Yeah.
for sharing that story with us, Elizabeth.
Yeah,
Of
thank you,
course.
Elizabeth. Yeah, I like that. I remember you kind of hearing about it earlier, and I was like, oh, that's nice. Like that is positive. And like, it's true. It's like you really sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, all those things are like, nothing, nothing comes like from things that aren't, easy or like or nothing comes from things that are easier. Like, challenges
Mhm.
are like it's kind of like it's like putting yourself out there and challenging yourself. Like you do gain a lot from that. And so I really, I appreciate you sharing that story. And I know that we spoke about older adults, but really this is something that affects people um on every age level. And I know you had some information about that too, that I thought that was really important as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I did want to mention that in the 2023 study, so very recent, um, the authors Otani and associates, they did a study on depression in adolescents and how like family support affects it. And the authors found that parental support can help prevent negative outcomes related to depression, and it can help um, adolescents recover from from their mental hardships. So yeah, it really is important to reiterate how um, every age group, it doesn't matter what age you are, you need that social support. You definitely do.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
actually love that. I love that research on that and that tip that you shared about how like the parental support makes such a big difference
Mhm.
because I think it goes to show like how we've stated in our I think in our original intro the vicious cycle of mental health, which is
Mhm.
that if you're okay, like your grandma or grandpa, they're suffering from something or they're having a hard time, that sometimes bleeds out into your parents. And then
Mhm.
sometimes what's going on with your parents, it bleeds out to like it bleeds out to you or it bleeds out to their children and so on and so forth.
Mhm.
And I think it's like that's why it's so important for every person to be really trying to find that happiness and that and focus on the mental health and prioritize it, and especially when it comes to this social interaction.
Yeah, I was like, that makes me think of something because um a while, like, I mean, a couple of years ago, I wanted to like explore writing like a book, and I wanted it to be like chains that will never be broken. And then as the years went by, I was like, these chains can be broken. And sometimes those chains could represent the mental illnesses that are, like Danielle just said, like it's from our great grandparents and from our great grandparents to our grandparents to our parents and then to us. So I also remember what Elizabeth said last in our last podcast, how now that this generation, there's so much technology and so much awareness out there about mental health, and maybe it's the time that we break these chains of mental illnesses and we start making a difference in our own lives. And then it affects other lives. And we could just be better as a society. Um, I
I
also
love that.
I grew up with I grew up in a Christian church, and there was this one pastor. I don't know if it was like a poem he wrote or like a quote he said, but we kind of grew up with this one statement, and I'm gonna say it because I was thinking about it when I was talking to my new friend that I made this semester.
Oh,
um and the quote went something, I don't know if it's exactly the same, but it went something like this: like, I went out to find a friend and didn't find any, but I went out to be a friend and found that they were everywhere. So that's
oh,
the
I
of
love that. I
Cute.
love that.
That's
I'm
yeah,
cute.
sorry.
like
I'm just like the feels. I love that.
so like
Okay.
I
It's very
think
helpful.
I mean, I have to
Sorry.
apply this to my own life as well too. But sometimes I think um, well, for me personally, I don't want to say we, I just want to say me. Well, for me, it comes naturally to like be a little turtle. And I'm just like walking around in campus. And then, like Danielle said, someone smiles at you and then you smile back and you feel good. Well, that's the opposite for me because I'm like a little turtle. Someone smiles at me and then my head goes in my shell and I get all shy and
Mm,
scared. But then I recently just remembered that quote talking to my friend, and I was like, hey, you know what? Like this entire time I've been like, oh, poor me. Nobody wants to be my friend. And but then the truth is I haven't went out to be a friend to somebody. And I think
mm,
that's what all of us need to kind of remember that people need a friend. And and this also reminds me of another study that I'm not going to mention, but I'm just going to say that usually people they think that, oh, nobody's going to help me. I don't want to ask anybody for help because they don't want to help me. But the truth is people are waiting for you to ask so that they could help you because they don't want to just help you without being asked. So
yeah.
it's like we go out and we want friends, but then we don't want to be a friend, but then we want friends. So
Yeah, it's like I feel like sometimes we have to like you have to advocate for yourself sometimes because people there's so many good people in the world too, and I think sometimes we hear a lot about the bad, sometimes more so, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of good people out in the world, and you know, like those people like they do want to help, but sometimes people don't also like we've talked about in our intro too, you know, sometimes people don't know how to help, and like that's what gets in the way of whether it's the motivation to help or it's your emotions or whatever it is. It's like feeling like you don't know how, you know? And so like even like what you're saying, Grace, being being able to say like, hey, like, you know, I do need help. Like it makes such a big difference.
yeah, it does. And I think when somebody like for me and Elizabeth, our stories about how somebody approached us and wanted to be our friends,
Mm.
and that turned around and made me think like, hey, I need to be more like my friend, and maybe there's someone out
Yeah.
there who's just like me, and they're just waiting for me to be like, hey, do you want to start study group, or hey, do you want to grab something to eat? um
I love it.
and it's kind of like that. I don't know what it's called because I heard about it. I'm sure maybe most of you will know what I'm talking about. It's like, what is it called? Like play it forward
Pay
or
it
something.
forward, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Pay it
Yeah.
Hmm.
forward.
Yeah.
So I think like if we want to be someone's friend, and I mean it's not just about us standing in a corner, like we have to do our part as well too and be a friend to somebody. And then that's how we can help ourselves as we help others too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love it. I love it. And also, like, this is literally breaking the vicious cycle and making a good one. You know, just as there can be bad cycles, there can be good cycles. And like you said, like that, those friends like reaching out to you and Elizabeth, like them starting that, and then you looking back on it and being like, you know what, I want to do that too. I want to work on being friends to others. Like,
Mhm.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's really awesome and really inspiring. And I mean, I'm inspired. So I'm sure like anyone who's listening to this like is probably inspired. And that's I feel like how we make a difference in the world. So thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. I hope to listen to this and be motivated by my own words to
Yeah. I'm gonna say I know I was like, I'm gonna save. I'm like, we know it'll be up on YouTube. We can just go back to this. But yeah, 100%. I feel motivated right now and I feel very like hopeful. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And then
Thank
on also on a side note, since we haven't seen each other's faces since this entire time, maybe at the end of the class or maybe at the end of semester when this is all done and over and we're stress free, maybe we can at least meet each other once in
We'll
person
meet
and be
up.
like, oh, okay, let me put a
We do
face
a meetup.
behind the voice.
Yes,
A
I
face
actually
reveal. Oh
was
my god.
thinking about that. Go ahead, Elizabeth. Sorry.
No, I was just saying, if we're gonna do a face reveal, that's crazy. Not crazy, but because like, yeah, it's been how many weeks? What week around like 15, 14?
Yeah, it's been like
And
15,
yeah,
I think.
that's crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, let's put a little of our podcast to actual action.
We should. When you were saying that part about
That's
like,
true.
oh, it's also about like, yes, like you can build a lot of social interactions virtually, but like it's also about like the physical, it's the look, it's looking at each other in the eyes and like the connection too, and like being able to like hug someone or being able to
Mhm.
like, like be there.
Yeah.
I was like, I straight up was like, oh my gosh. I was like, we need to do that. So I'm glad you said it. I'm glad I wasn't like
No.
alone. But yeah, you've heard it here, podcast. We're gonna meet up.
Oh, we have.
This
Now
is
we
how
have
you
to
make
provide
friends.
like we have to provide documentation. Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh,
We'll take a
I
picture.
know.
We'll take a picture. Away.
Love it.
Yeah, I
Well,
guess
I hope
we'll
that.
update them. Yeah,
What was that?
sorry. I said we'll keep you guys updated on how
Yes,
that goes
yes.
Yeah, we'll keep you
to
guys
our
updated.
audience.
Yeah.
Definitely keep everyone updated. But yeah, I think this was the perfect example of how to make friends, and I hope everyone who's listening to this, that you feel inspired to go out there and make friends, or better yet, be a friend. So I love that, and I'm so happy to be able to do this with these amazing people in my group, and being able to do this together. Yay! Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.